After generating over $10 million in revenue for e-commerce stores, I have seen some terrible Klaviyo flows. Some of these are completely ruining the sales for e-commerce stores. And this could be the case for yours as well. That's why I'm going to go through 7 ways that you can instantly improve your Klaviyo flow performance. I'm going to show you the inside of real accounts with successful flows and break down these 7 steps for you. Let's get into it. When it comes to having successful email flows, the first thing you need to do is actually ensure you have the email flows. Have all of them. We don't want to have missing pieces. Our email flows are essentially going to help us guide our customers from cold all the way to when they're making a purchase. And then after that, ensure that they're coming back to our site and making future purchases so we can increase their lifetime value. We want to be converting more people into customers without having to spend more money on ads. And our email flows are the ticket to that. The benefit of having all the email flows is you avoid the customer having to make their own conscious decisions. So when it comes to customer psychology and making a purchase, we want to guide that customer from where they are. We want to hold their hand and take them all the way to the point where they're ready to purchase. If you're missing email flows, there are going to be steps in the customer journey where they're required to make their own conscious decisions, or they're required to take themselves to the next step. A lot of the time, like people in their day, right, they have a million different distractions. They have Instagram Reels, they have TikTok, they have notifications, they need to spend time with their family, they need to think about what they want to eat, they need to think about what they're going to do at the gym, they need to, go to work and make their own money and all those, everything you got to deal with in a day. The last thing that they're consciously thinking of is, did I leave that product at checkout? Like, oh, should I go complete my order? If they can't be bothered, there's a good chance that they're just not going to do it. And when you have these email flows, you're essentially having targeted touch points at every step of the customer journey, which is going to help people go to the next step and then to the next step, up to the point where they're ready to purchase, right? So you have someone who's new to your site. They fill out your pop-up form. Then they get the welcome flow. This gets them looking at products. Then they maybe get the browse abandonment flow, but they don't quite add something to cart. So that would be the browse abandonment to flow. Then they add something to cart, but they don't quite start checkout. You have your added to cart flow, which gets people to start checkout. Then when they don't place an order, you have your abandoned checkout flow come in and help those people place an order. Like, you can see how you're nurturing people down every step of the funnel. So the number one thing you need to do is ensure you actually have all the email flows. There's 8 here in front of you. I'm going to run you through exactly what they are, so you can actually see them and check them against your account. These are the 8 minimum ones that you should be having. There are other ones you can add, and I'll touch on those too. But welcome flow. This is the first one down the bottom here. You can't see the name because my head's in the way, but this is your welcome flow. This is going to be the biggest revenue driver for your store. Let me see if I can just crop my screen here for you. So as you can see here, this is the biggest revenue driver for this store. In the last 7 days, or if you look at the last 30 days, they've done $34,000 just from their welcome flow here, which is very significant. This is just the result of having a good offer and guiding people back to the site at the start of their customer journey. From there, the browse abandonment flow. This is for people who look at products but don't add anything to cart. This is a very important one to have. You also have your active on-site flow. These are for profiles who go to your website, but they don't quite look at products. Maybe they scroll through your collection pages, they have a click around, but they don't open any product in particular. We want to send them our active on-site flow. From there, the next one we have here is the abandoned checkout flow. This is for people who start their checkout and don't place an order. We need to tackle their objections, work out why they don't want to, like why they haven't placed an order. Like, why has someone gone to checkout and then fallen off? Was it, maybe they forgot and got distracted? Well, we just need to remind them. Was it the price and the shipping cost added on that deterred them from wanting to place an order? We need to find out what the objections are at the checkout level that are stopping these people from ordering, because they are extremely close. Then you have your thank you flow for people who have just placed an order. We want to help remove the buyer's remorse, invite them to our community if we have one, or show them some UGC or show them how to use our products. We essentially want to educate them on, we want to congratulate them on placing an order and, let them know that they've made the right decision to remove that buyer's remorse. But if required, also educate them on using our product and let them know what the sort of next week or so is going to look like while they're waiting for their order. Then the abandoned cart flow, this is going to be less of a money maker. This is one that has been slower for this store, but this is for people who add products to cart. They click the add to cart button, but they don't actually start checkout. This is going to be a smaller minority of people, and it's only people on our list who are obviously getting these. Then you have your sunset flow and your win back flow. These haven't triggered yet for this store. They were only made on May the 18th, 2 months ago, so no one has actually received these emails yet. But you can see these 8 flows here. The other ones you could have is like a cross-sell flow where you're cross-selling people to other SKUs. You could have a VIP flow. You can have things like the birthday flow if you're collecting birthday. Then you could also have some SMS flows if you're collecting SMS somewhere in the journey. Now, right now, if you do not have these flows set up, you are self-sabotaging. Now, while they might not all be big revenue drivers in terms of attribution, they all work in cohesion together to get the results we're looking for. So the welcome flow, even though for this store it's a big driver of sales, they have a good offer on their pop-up form, and that would be a reason for that. But say, for example, the active on-site flow, that gets people looking at products. So there might not always be a sale attributed there, but maybe it pushes people to view products in a week's time, and then they get the browse abandonment flow. Maybe the browse abandonment flow doesn't convert to a sale right away, but it gets people adding products to cart or beginning checkout. It's pushed them down the next step of the funnel. We need these touch points at every step so that we can progress people through the funnel accurately. If we're missing the browse abandonment flow, if we're missing the active on-site flow, someone might go look at our products and not add to cart, and we don't have any follow-ups. We're relying then on those people to receive further communication via our campaigns or something, or seeing a retargeting ad. We're relying on that to get people to progress to the next step, which is adding products to cart. Whereas if you have the email flow, browse abandonment, you're nurturing those people from viewing products to the point where they're ready to add to cart. So you're handling that gap, I guess, in the customer journey. So all of these flows in isolation work as just handling the gap between, bridging someone from where they are to the next step of the funnel. You need to have all the flows. Take a screenshot of these. You have your win back down the bottom here, which is the one you can't see now. Your sunset, your abandoned cart, your thank you, your checkout, your active on site, your browse, and your welcome. These are the bare minimum. Then you have a cross sell, a VIP, stuff like that you can implement once you're seeing some results. So that is the first step of what you need to do with your email flows to improve performance. Build them all. They don't have to be amazing off the start, but at least have touch points at all of these levels so that you're not missing any gaps in the customer journey. Now, step 2 or tip 2, how can we fuel our flows? This is my next step on how to improve your Klaviyo flow performance out of the 7, is fueling your flows. Now, what do I mean by that? For your flows to perform, they need traffic. If people aren't coming to your site, if people aren't going through the flows, well, obviously they're not going to perform. So there's 2 ways you can add fuel to your flows and get people moving through them. The first one is going to be ads. If you're running ads and you're collecting emails at your pop-up form, well then, yep, you're going to have people moving through your flows naturally when they start checkout, when they add products to cart, or when they join our welcome flow. But the other thing you can do to fuel these flows is send more campaigns. When you're sending campaigns to your email list, think about it. The people who are getting these flow emails that we looked at here, the people who are getting these flow emails, these are people who are already on our email list. So, we have their profile, we have their email. What would be the best way to improve the performance of the browse abandonment? We have a good revenue per recipient here. We get $6 for every person who looks at a product. That is pretty good. So for everyone who was on our email list, every time we get them to look at a product, and they're not purchasing straight away, we're recovering $6 at this step. So all we need to do is get more people from our email list looking at our products. How can we do that? Send more campaigns. If you're actively sending campaigns that are good and you have a high click rate, then you're having people go and look at products. From there, they're getting enrolled in the browse abandonment flow. The best way to increase your flow performance is to send more campaigns. The more campaigns you send, the more activity that your email subscribers are taking on your website. If you can get a 1 or 2% click rate even on your email, say you send to 5,000 people, that's a solid size list. What's 1% of that? 50? 2% of that? 100? That's 100 people who would be taking an activity on your site, whether they're active on site, they're viewing products, or they're adding items to cart and not starting checkout, or they're starting checkout. That's 100 extra people who are now going through our flows. If we're collecting $6 per recipient, there's another $600 just off that alone. That's just like rough numbers there. But what you can do to improve the performance of your flows is just to send more campaigns. As you can see with this store, they're extremely flow heavy. But one thing we've done in the last sort of 2 weeks is start sending campaigns for this store. We were not doing that previously. So as soon as we started sending campaigns, even though these campaigns only themselves brought in $2,400 in revenue, it actually added fuel to the flows. We started seeing more deliveries through the flows. More people were going through the checkout flow, more people were going through the active on-site flow, more people were going through the browse abandonment flow, and we were able to significantly increase the amount of revenue seen in these flows. So, an extra 100% here, an extra 100% there, an extra 2,000% there. So that's exactly what we want to be doing. After we create the flows, then step one, we add fuel to the flows. Run ads so they're seeing traffic, send campaigns so our email subscribers are taking action on the website, and then getting introduced to the flow emails where they're going to be pushed down the funnel and converted into purchase. So all of this is now working well together to the point where this store is bringing in 35% of their revenue, $45,000 a month, just from having really good email flows and sending campaigns which are getting a solid click rate and putting people into the flows. So that's step two. Step three, and the third thing we want to do is we want to make sure people actually see our emails. One problem that I see with a lot of flow emails for stores is that they don't get high open rates. They're getting like 20% open rates or something. So people are getting these flow emails. We've built our flows. We're sending traffic through the flows, but no one's opening them. 2 out of every 10 people are opening them, or even worse, some cases, one out of every 10 people are opening them. That is extremely low. With our flow emails, we want to be getting around 40% open rates. So if you're someone who's getting 20% open rates on your flows, simply by doubling the amount of people who is opening it, you can get more sales. And I say simply lightly because, for you right now who's getting 20% open rates, getting 40% open rates seems daunting, and you might be saying, how can I do that simply? But for a lot of people, it's because of deliverability. It's not, maybe it's your subject line, maybe your subject lines are bad, but more often than not, if you're getting 20% open rates, it's probably because you're landing in the spam folder. So how can we get out of the spam folder? Well, I have a document here for 10 steps to prevent your email marketing from going to the spam folder. I'm not going to go through this whole document on this, but I will link it in the description so you can access this. It'll give you all the steps you need to stay out of the spam folder. So if you're having issues with your flows, you can fix that right away, because the number one thing that you can do in your flows is just to get, the number 3 thing you can do in your flows after having them built and sending traffic through them is to actually have people opening their emails. Once it's all set up and you have traffic going through, the next priority is to have people opening them, and this is how you can do it. If you're having spam issues, you want to test them, you can check your Klaviyo deliverability dashboard to see what's happening. You can ensure you're satisfying all the technical components of email spam. You're sending good content, you're segmenting well, you're mixing in text-only emails. This step here is important for the flow topic. If you have emails that are performing poorly in your flows, turn them off for the time being. Like if you have an email that's getting 10% open rates, turn it off because it's probably causing you more harm than good. You want to ensure that you're landing with good metrics across the board, 40% open rates like I alluded to earlier. Then you might need to clean your list and then nurture certain providers. So, if you find out that you're landing in spam just for Outlook or just for Gmail, you want to be looking at fixing that up specifically because that will help you land out of the spam folder. So that's what we want to be doing here. I will link this in the description so you can go through this. But that is step 3. Ensure you have good deliverability so that your flow emails are actually being seen by your customers. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time and, you've built all this stuff out, you're sending all the traffic through and no one's seeing your emails and no one's buying from your flows. Now, for tip number 4, this is going to be increase the length of your flows. Now, simply adding more emails to the flows has a really good chance of increasing your flow revenue if the data shows it. I'm going to show you how to analyze that. So over time, throughout a flow, this is a welcome flow. Over time, people are going to drop off naturally. We have 70% open rates on the first one, $32,000 in sales, 42% open rate on the next one, $2,000 in sales, 34%, $300. Like most people have bought from the welcome flow within the first 2 emails. But what we can see is that we're still getting good engagement towards the end of the flow. So we're seeing 5 emails here. We still have a 3% click rate on email 5 with 50% open rates. And the email before that, 40% open rates, 0.8% click rate, still solid. There is room to add another email here most likely. If our engagement hasn't dropped off too much, so email 1 had good, email 2 had solid, email 3 it dropped off quite a bit but still had high click rate. Email 4, it actually picks back up and we have a 40% open rate. Before email 5 it picks up again. There is room to add more emails here. So one thing that you can do for your welcome email, your welcome flow in particular, is go find your campaigns that have converted highly. So go find a campaign that had maybe a 2 or 3% click rate that wasn't discount related. So, you're already giving a discount in the welcome flow here. Maybe you sent a campaign highlighting an us versus them, or you sent a campaign highlighting your best sellers, or you sent a campaign breaking down the features of a particular product to your list, and it got a 3% click rate. We can extrapolate that information and say, well, if it got a 3% click rate from our current list, there's a good chance it's going to perform well with our new subscribers, so we can add an email to our welcome flow. So we've simply increased the length of the flow there, so it's another email, it's another chance to make sales. You can do this in all of your flows essentially. It's one thing that I promote on the active on-site flow. So here we have active on-site flow. The first email does really well. The second email, not so well, but it's only been running for a little bit. It's only had 65 deliveries. 65% over, 65 people open, sorry. So this is still really early days in this flow in particular, but 50% open rate, 5% click rate, early signs. Well, let's add a third email. And if you only had one email there, you would look at this data and be like, well, 67% open rate, 14% click rate. We're 100% adding a second email here because this email went really well. People are really engaged in this flow. Let's send them a follow-up. So you want to create more follow-ups dependent on the performance of prior emails. Let's look at the browse abandonment here. So 63% open rate, 2,000 in sales. 56% open rate, 1,000 in sales. 46% open rate, but the sales have dropped. Again, this is a recent addition. It's only been opened by 72 people, but it is quite weaker, or it's quite a bit weaker than email 2. But 46% open rate, 3% click rate. While it's a small sample size, we wouldn't be diving into putting the effort into creating a fourth email yet. But, we've got $2,000 in sales here, $1,000 in sales here. Right now, 0. But if this went to $500 in sales, so, it was following a trend of going from 2 to 1, like it was halving, 2,000, 1,000, 500, then we would consider adding a fourth email in this flow with the hope of picking up another $250 maybe. So that is something to test over time, the length of your flow emails. You want to essentially keep adding emails until engagement has dropped off a cliff, essentially. So if we've got 63% open rate, 56% open rate, 46% open rate, we can add another email and still probably get like mid 30 open rate or high 30% open rate. It's only once we get towards the low 30% open rate that we go, okay, engagement's really starting to drop off here. We're getting into dangerous territory because we really don't want to be creating emails that are having less than 30% open rate. Then we would stop. But at this level, with 46% open rates and a 3% click rate, we could still definitely consider improving the length of the flow or adding an additional email here. So yeah, for tip 4, 100% increase the length of your flows. So we've built our flows, we've sent traffic through them, people are opening the emails and we have good engagement. Now we want to create further emails and test continually adding to the length of our flows so people are getting more flow emails and we have more sales opportunities there. Now, if you're still watching, congratulations, you're doing a good job. You've got 4 out of the 7 tips. We've got 3 more to go, and trust me, these are going to be worth it. These are really going to help you increase the revenue in your email flows, and they're going to go a long way to helping you increase your overall revenue. So the 5th test we're going to touch on, or the 5th tip we're going to touch on here is testing, A/B testing. We need to be A/B testing all of our flows. It's going to be vital to the success of our flows. So I'm going to show you an abandoned checkout flow here and show you some tests that we have looked at doing and how they've impacted the results in an account. So we have an abandoned checkout flow here. What we've tested here is the difference between a 2-hour time delay and a 1-hour time delay. We create a random sample, so we can put a conditional split and create a 50% random sample. This is going to send 50% of the people down the yes and 50% of the people down the no. This is an example of a high leverage A/B test, the time delay. As you can see here, over the last 30 days, this has actually made negligible impact on the flows. We were testing the difference between waiting 2 hours to send the first abandoned checkout email or waiting 1 hour. Waiting 1 hour, we have a slightly higher open rate, but a tiny bit of a lower click rate. However, the placed order rate on waiting 1 hour is much higher, and it's led to about $80 in more sales. But if the placed order rate is going to be higher, that's something that's going to stack up and compound over time. So from 200 opens, or roughly 200 opens, we've done an extra $80 in sales. But if you do that for the next 2,000 people, it's going to be an extra $800 in sales. Still negligible numbers for in terms of what this account is doing. So we'd probably be looking to test further, but nothing statistically significant. But it's still given us insights into the account, and we know that maybe this time delay isn't something that's going to impact, and we can test further. But A/B testing is going to be extremely powerful. Now let's look at some tests that we've run on other flows. This is the welcome flow. So we have a good welcome email here, which has done $54,000 in sales in the last 30 days. Let's look at another flow here, the welcome flow. So this first email for this brand has led to $54,000 in sales. One thing we've tested is resending the first email to people who didn't open it the first time around. So we had a 62% open rate. These people have opted into our pop-up form to receive the code, remember? So 62% of people have opened. There's still 38% of people who haven't opened. After 1 day, we wanted to test resending it to people, what it would do. as you can see, we had a 56% open rate on just resending it to these people in the first email. So out of the 38% who didn't open it, 56% of those people went on to open it. So now, combined on the first email, we have what? What's half of 38? 19. So, we have a 80% open rate or an 81% open rate on this first email, which led to an additional $2,500 in sales. So very good test there of including that. Now, down the line, we've tested adding different angles as well. So we added an additional email in here based off what I was saying in the earlier step of testing the length of the flows. It is also something you can weave into A/B testing, experimenting with different angles. So we initially didn't have this email, which is why it was called email 10. But we could see towards the end of this flow, we had really, really good engagement still. 55% open rates, 2% click rates, 61% open rates, 5% click rates. So we wanted to try insert this email and see how it would impact things. We still have good engagement there early days. Another thing we've done is test the click rates on, we performed a test to try impact the click rates on the first email. We went for a designed hero image versus a non-designed hero image and just having a primarily text welcome email. Aside from the time delays, other things that you can test is the subject lines. We've put a lot of tests on these subject lines, and that's going to help us test the open rates. And because, like I said earlier, if we can get more people opening our emails, we can make more sales. Another thing we can test is our subject line. So like I said earlier, if we can get more people opening our emails, the more sales we're going to make. So you can test your subject lines to improve the open rates. We have A/B tests running on every single subject line in this flow. So the two things we want to test first is the time delays in our, in our abandonment flows, like our browse, our cart, and our checkout. But we also want to be testing the subject lines pretty much in every flow. Now, the third thing you can test is angles. So for example, email 3 here, we talk about the best sellers and we list out a series of best sellers. It would be smart, we're testing, as you can see, the A/B test sign there means we're running an A/B test on the subject line. But once that's concluded, it could be smart to run a test there on the angle of this email. Maybe we don't focus on the best sellers, maybe we focus on one particular product, maybe we focus on just a reviews email maybe. Instead of listing out the best sellers, we list out all the best reviews. So we want to test the content in these slots as well. So test your time delays, test your subject lines, and test your content. If you're doing that, you're going to go a long way to improving the results of your email flows because, if we can make a 1% improvement per month over the course of a year, we've made, as that compounds, you're kind of 12% better than you were when you first started. And for many stores, a 12% improvement on the flows over the course of a year, just from some simple A/B tests, is definitely going to be worth it. You can do this in a week. Each week make half an hour to sit down or make 1 hour to sit down and go make a bunch of high leverage tests to your flows. That's going to have a really, really high impact on your store's revenue. So definitely do that. Like I said, time delays, subject lines, content, those are the 3 things you want to be testing to start with. There's other things you can test like the different designs, etc. But they're going to be the 3 highest leverage ones early days. Now, the 6th thing that you want to do to improve the performance of your email flows is simply improve the performance of your pop-up flow. The more people who are submitting your pop-up, they're giving your email to your pop-up flow, the more sales opportunities we're going to have. Now, it's not always correlated. If you're offering certain things, you're going to have people sign up that aren't particularly interested in buying. But we want to be collecting, as a rule of thumb, the more subscribers, the better. But just keep in mind that just stacking your email list with tons of subscribers maybe not be the way to go. Maybe you're offering a free gift with first order, or you're offering free express shipping, or something really good and you're getting a really high opt-in rate, but then these people aren't actually going on to purchase. So, to an extent, a better submission rate is going to be more revenue. And just for the simplicity of this video, I'm going to focus on that because majority of people, if you improve your opt-in rate, you're going to have better performance of your flows. So let's focus on that. So right now, this form's converting at 7%, which is good. Anywhere between 5 to 10% is good as a rule of thumb. If you're below 3%, you definitely have work to do. If you're below 5%, in between 3 and 5%, it's okay. Above 5% is really good. But the closer you can get to 10%, the better. And if you can get it more than 10%, well, you're laughing. Now, how can you actually improve the performance of your pop-up form? Well, let's look at this one. I'm going to show you a few analytics of what we did over the last sort of 90 days here. So as you can see, we've drastically improved the opt-in rate of this flow since April. So in April, it was 2%. We were floating around 1%, 2%, 2%, 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%, 4%, 6%. We started making some changes around here to the level now where we're getting 8% of people opt into our flow. of our form, sorry, and they're obviously increasing the amount of traffic they're getting because 9,000 people saw the pop-up form. But we made some really positive changes where over the last 90 days we're averaging 4.8%, but in the last 7 days we're averaging 8%. So we can see recently we've made some really positive changes. A lot of it is to do with the layout of the form and the offer. So this brand's offering a standard 10% off, but it wasn't exactly landing very well, so we've changed this to a mystery discount. You can offer a mystery discount and you can give people anywhere between 10 and 20% off, or you can just give people a standard 10% off. It can be a little bit, some people would think it's a little bit shady saying that you're giving a mystery discount, you're giving everyone 10%, but people like that mystery. They like not knowing what they're going to get, so a mystery discount is a great way to improve your opt-in rate. You can also have yes/no questions, so before someone fills out the form, you can say, would you like your mystery discount? Yes or no. If they click yes, it takes them to the next step where they can then put in their email. Another rule of thumb, don't ask for too many things at once. Don't ask for the first name, email, phone number, and a question about them. Just ask for one thing per step, like a first name and an email. But if you want a high opt-in rate, just ask for email. More people are going to be likely to fill out one step because it's the easiest thing to do. The more steps you add, the more work someone has to do, the less likely they're going to be to submit your pop-up form. But we can see the correlation between pop-up form and revenue here. If we can improve the pop-up form's opt-in rate by 4% to 8%, or nearly 9% or whatever it is, it's not reloading here. But if you can improve that pop-up form, you can directly increase the amount of people who are going through your welcome flow, and just by maths, you can see how that's going to improve your revenue. If 10% of people are placing an order throughout the duration of your welcome flow, if you can double your opt-in rate, well, you're doubling the amount of people who are going to go through that welcome flow, and then 10% is still 10%. If you're having 400 people go through, 10% of that's 40 orders. But if you can get 800 people going through, 10% of that's 80 orders. So sometimes by simply improving the opt-in rate on your pop-up form, you're going to drastically increase the performance of your flows. Not only will that lead to more people going through your welcome flow, but it leads to more profiles on your email list. So when it comes time for people adding products to cart or beginning checkout, that's more people we can send follow-up emails to because they're on our email list. The more people we can get in this form, the better. So 7% is good here. Ideally, we'd want to continue testing this, but as I showed you, it was at 2% not too long ago in April, and now we've got it cranking up here towards the 8% mark. And we're going to keep raising this until we can get it to 10%. And, at one point it was 10%. So if we can get it to 10%, it's going to be really good for this brand. So we've increased their opt-in rate by 5x, 500% increase compared to April earlier this year, which is going to be 5 times more people going through the welcome flow. So hypothetically, 5 times more revenue through our welcome flow. So that's tip number 6. Focus on your pop-up form. Once you've built the flows in number 1, you've sent traffic in number 2. In what do we do in number 3? We improve the length, I think. I've lost track. Number 4, I've lost track of the steps. We'll have to go back and look at them. But it was what did we do? So we built them in number 1. In number 2, we ensured that we were sending traffic. In number 3, we improved our deliverability. In number 4, we increased the length of our flows if the data showed it. In number 5, we A/B tested everything. And now in number 6, we've improved and focused on our pop-up form so we can send more people to our flows in the first place. So that's going to be your first 6 steps. Let's dive into the final step. Now, the last thing we want to do with our flows is make sure all the triggers are correct. If we do not have the right triggers on our flows, we're not going to be sending them to the right people, and we're not going to be getting the results that we want. Because, like I said right at the start of the video, by having all the flows, we're essentially hitting people when we want to hit them and helping bridge the gap between steps of our customer journey. But if the triggers aren't correct, and they're sending out a whack or they're doubling up, well, we're certainly going to be having issues with people getting our emails. So what we want to do is, say we look at a flow. We want to ensure that smart sending is off. We want people getting flows when they take action. It's not actually the actual trigger, but that is part of what I'm talking about here when I'm talking about the trigger setup. The whole settings of the email flows and when they're sending. We want to turn off smart sending. If we have smart sending on, someone could have been active on our website because we sent a campaign. Say we sent a campaign, they go view our product and then they leave. We want that email to trigger. If smart sending was on, because they received that campaign within 16 hours ago, they're not going to get this email, and it's going to completely reduce the effect of that. So we do not want to be doing this. We want to be turning off smart sending. Now, with the trigger, we want only people at this step to be getting it. So that's why we say this person has checkout started 0 times since this flow. placed order 0 times since starting this flow, and has not been in this flow in the last 30 days. And I put in is created, it is at least 7 days ago, because I don't want people in the welcome flow getting the browse abandonment, because we just want them getting the welcome flow. That's our best flow. That's our number one flow. We don't want them getting double ups there. So has it created is at least 7 days ago, has not been in the flow in the last 30 days, placed order 0 times since starting this flow, checkout started 0 times since starting this flow. So you essentially want to get every flow ahead of it and make sure that they haven't done that thing. We can look at the active on site here, and we can look at the profile filters that we have put on. So the trigger is obviously the metric active on site. That'll set up when you plug it into Shopify. But these profile filters are going to be like, has not been in the flow in the last 30 days, placed order 0 times since starting this flow, created is at least 7 days ago, and what someone has done, viewed product 0 times in the last 3 days. We can do it with the checkout flow, or where's the abandoned cart flow? Placed order 0 times since starting this flow, checkout started 0 times since starting this flow, has not been in this flow in the last 10 days. So we want to have all of these profile filters set up correctly, and we want to turn smart sending off. If you turn smart sending off, you're going to have way more emails deliver, because like I said, a lot of the time people enter these flows, if you remember back to step 2, is because we're sending campaigns to fuel the traffic. If we send a campaign and they start checkout and they leave, we want them getting the abandoned checkout emails. We don't want smart sending to not send it to them just because they got sent a campaign. So that's going to be a really important part of this, is turn off smart sending, ensure your triggers are correct. So that marks step 7, and there are the 7 things that you need to do to improve your flow revenue instantly. If you follow these 7 steps, so to reiterate, building all your flows, sending traffic, improving your deliverability, increasing the length of your flows, A/B testing your flows, testing your pop-up form, and turning off smart sending and making sure your triggers are correct, you're going to drive a ton of revenue for your e-com store with these flows alone. You're going to start making way more sales from your email list, and you're never going to have to worry about customer retention again or conversion from your ads in the first place. If you want to learn a little bit more about identifying the other gaps in your account, obviously we touched on the flows in this video, but there's more on deliverability, campaigns, sign-up forms, and you want to identify where your account is sitting and actually be able to work out what is going wrong in your account. I've put together a video where we audit a 7-figure account live. I break down their pop-up forms, their deliverability, the flows that they have, the campaigns that they're sending. I break it all down in one video, which you can click to watch here. I'll see you in the next one.